Hi everyone, welcome to today's session. My name is Anka and I will be your host for today, walking you through the most important steps in creating a social media strategy. So, welcome to the social media challenge. Today's session, we will go through quite a few things. It's going to be a packed 2 hours. We're also going to have a little bit of a practical exercise that you can do after the session. So I'm just going to give it to you as a homework for whenever you have time to do it. So let's go ahead and share my screen so that I can tell you a little bit more about what we're going to learn today. In the meantime, let me introduce my colleague Andrea, who's in the chat here with us, helping us with anything that might go wrong. Hopefully, nothing goes wrong. And if you're asking, yes, this session is recorded, so you will get the recording after the session is complete. If you stick with us throughout this entire session, you are automatically you're automatically in to win one of three prizes, two social B licenses for 1 year or one lifetime ACE account, which is our calendar scheduling solution. So let's talk about what you're going to learn in today's session. So we're going to go ahead and talk about a few things in the following 2 hours, mainly the core elements of any good social media strategy. We're going to talk about goal setting, planning, content creation, engagement, analytics, and everything else that you might need in order to create a robust plan. So hopefully this gives you quite a bit of information to use when you're ready to get started with social media. Sorry if I feel a little bit off today. I am not feeling very well. So if at any moment I feel worse, I'm going to, with apologies, stop the webinar in case something goes wrong, but hopefully nothing does. Okay, so let's talk about me for a second so that you get to know me a little bit as well. My name is Anka. I'm a social media marketing strategist here at Social Bee, and over the past 8 years, I've been guiding people with Social Bee to make the most out of their social media strategy. So that's what I'm here to do today in this social media challenge. Let's see what we're going to go through. First of all, we're going to go through goal setting. We're going to talk about goals. We're going to talk about planning. And the key points that we're going to address are going to be why goals matter, what are SMART goals, and what your goals should include when it comes to specific elements. And that being said, make sure that you keep in mind that this is not about perfection. It is about gaining momentum and moving forward with your social media content. So that's what we're focusing on today. Okay, so let's talk about why goals matter. This is important because, sorry about that. It will help you measure your progress against a benchmark. It will help you test methods and adjust wherever it's needed. It will help you create structure and consistency so that you have better engagement moving forward. So let me know in the chat, what goals do you have right now set for your social media strategy, if you have one? If not, I think during this social media challenge, you should definitely be able to set some goals there as well. So let's talk a little bit about what types of goals you're going to work with. I can see some popping up in the chat. Increase brand awareness, bookings, reaching ideal clients, being relevant to them. Totally random at this point. User engagement and app downloads. These are all great, but all of these are very generic. So we're going to learn about how you can make them smart for yourself. What does SMART stand for, you ask? Well, it stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So you'll have metrics that will help you make the most out of these goals and make sure that you achieve them. Starting with specific. We're gonna say no to the general ones that you sent in the chat, and yes to more detailed approaches. Think about the channel you're posting on. Think about who's in charge. Think about any steps that need to be taken. Think about all of that and make it specific. On the other hand, the second step is to make it measurable by adding one or two metrics that can be easily followed to get to your desired numbers. In this case, we're talking something like gain 2,000 followers on Instagram, not just gain followers on Instagram. The third step is to make sure that you are making these achievable. So keep in mind that if your goal is not realistic, you are gonna just set yourself up for disappointment. So to give an example, if you want to jump to 10,000 followers in 1 month when you only have 10 right now, that's not realistic and it's not how social media works. So you will be disappointed at the end of the month because you didn't reach your goal. However, if you make it achievable, you will say something like increasing the number of followers to 200 in the first month, and then from there higher up in the following months as well. One thing I forgot to mention is that this session does have a Q&A box. So if you have any questions, you can add them in the Q&A box and we'll address them at the end of the session. Okay, so we've talked about specific, measurable, and achievable goals. Let's talk about how they are relevant to your objective, to your business, to the problems that your business is facing. And then finally, make them time-bound. Add a deadline to them. That's very important to make sure that you achieve them properly. So now that we have the SMART goals set, we're gonna go ahead and look at some examples. For instance, we have one about increasing traffic on Pinterest, and you'll be able to see it on the left side here. I've made it specific by saying what channel and what action I want to do. And then we're making it measurable by increasing the traffic by 30%, measuring with Google Analytics instead. So because Pinterest is very good at bringing traffic to your website, this is a great goal to have for Pinterest. Is this goal achievable for us? Yes, because we're already seeing around 3,000 visits from Pinterest every month. So that means that we are going to be able to bring a 30% increase to it because we have the base to start with it. Next up, we have the relevant tab, and that is relevant to my overall marketing strategy because more traffic from Pinterest supports our bigger marketing strategy of growing the traffic, of bringing organic traffic, and so on. And you'll also be able to achieve this goal in about 8 weeks. That's what we said here. I'm reading your concerns on the chat. Thank you so much. I insist on going on. It's my personal choice to do this. If I feel like it won't be good, then I'll pass it over to Andrea. But thank you. Okay, so we also have a second example for YouTube where we want to add new subscribers. It's also achievable and it's also part of our marketing strategy. So we have all the elements that we need in order to make sure that we achieve this goal. Now, the next thing that we need to focus on once we have the goals is to make sure that we have content pillars and topic clarity. This means that you're going to look at pillars and topics of content and you're going to develop them together. So, content pillars, they're the main themes that will guide your content. For instance, you can say pillar one should be educational, pillar two should be entertaining, pillar three should be promotional, things like that. And then on the topics element, you can change these from one pillar to the other to adjust them accordingly. So in this case, you would have industry specific subjects that are relevant to your audience that you're going to go ahead and cycle through. So in this case, you're going to address your audience's interests. In Social Bee, you can use the pillars as content categories or the topics as well. So it is up to you on whichever one you want to work with. But basically, if you are going to use the three that I mentioned in the beginning, talking about educational, entertaining, and promotional, you are going to be able to share insights on how your social media algorithms reward your consistency, or provide any tips on how you can maintain a posting schedule as a social media scheduler. So that is for Social Bee. The entertaining pillar will use things like relatable memes and images and behind the scenes that will help highlight the difference between inconsistent posting and consistent posting, which is the solution that Social Bee promotes. And finally, the promotional pillar is the one where we're going to, on cards on the table, promote the product or service that we have. So keep in mind to start simple, to post one post per week, maybe in the beginning from each pillar, and then start to build up from there, and alternate between the different topics that you might have included to maintain your variety. And we've reached our first practical exercise. So I'm not gonna let you do it here in the challenge with us because of the fact that I'm not feeling that well. What I think would be best is to take a screenshot of this, do it on your own time, and if you want feedback on it, you can always reach back out to me. You can reach me at anka@socialbee.com or via the success inbox, success@socialbee.com. So the exercise that I want you to do is to pick one social media channel and focus on just that one for now. Then you're going to set a SMART goal for that channel and develop a list of your content pillars and topics. Once you have that, you can move on to the next step, which is to plan and time your posts accordingly. If you still want to take a screenshot, I'll just leave it for a few more seconds. That way I can drink some water. Okay, so let's talk about the next step, which is to think about how you're going to plan your content. You're going to think about the structure that you want to follow every time you're creating or scheduling your content. So the key points that you want to use here are using AI to ideate for content, to bring in examples, to bring in ideas for your content. And Andrea, my colleague, will share some prompts in the chat. You're then also going to talk about posting frequency, and we're going to take a screenshot of that really soon. So prepare your screenshot tools. And also, you want to use your AI prompts to generate topics, to generate post ideas that are complete, and to just basically make your life easier in today's day and age. So, how do you determine the best posting times and frequency? You can take a screenshot of this if you want to. Basically, you have some best practices when it comes to each platform. Facebook, 1 to 2 posts per day. Instagram, 3 to 5 posts per week, not more. X around 2 to 3 posts per day, LinkedIn 1 to 2 posts per day, and so on. You'll also have Pinterest, YouTube, and TikTok here. There's also Threads and Blue Sky, which are very similar in behavior to X. So you can use those guidelines for these two. One little note on that, you can use Threads to promote your content in the morning and midday and make it a little more visual than you would with X. Okay, so we have hopefully taken screenshots of this, and we're going to move over on the next step, which is how to use AI to plan your content. So we're going to talk about how you can use AI to plan smarter and faster and not losing your personal touch, because that's a very important subject for everyone. And yes, the biggest mistake that I see people using AI make is to ask the wrong questions or just overuse it to the point where the content is no longer their own. So we're going to do our best to use the right prompts, like the ones that Andrea has shared, to make sure that this does not happen. Once we have that, we're gonna move over to creating the content. You're gonna use tactics like batching your content, reusing your content, or using AI to speed things up. But before we go into all of that, let's talk about the anatomy of a post. Okay. So we don't have that in the in the slide. So the anatomy of the post is very important when you're batching or reusing content, because you need to know all the elements that your post needs to have in order to be able to work properly. For instance, Instagram needs a video or an image, absolutely mandatory, whereas Facebook does not. So you can just go ahead and post text on Facebook. So you have to be mindful of all the elements that you have there. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about content creation rules and how you should plan before you create, by using the content pillars, by using the topics, and guiding your content with those. You're going to list out all of the topics in advance so that you're always aware of the things that you need to create content around. Once you have that, you're going to batch similar tasks together. So in this case, we're going to create multiple captions in one sitting, or graphics or videos, depending on what we're working on at that moment. And you're going to schedule your posts in bulk using a content calendar like SocialBee. Raise your hand in the chat if you're using SocialBee, and give me an X if you're not using it yet. I'm curious. So, I see some X's here. Okay, so you're in for the yearly plan, huh? Just started and learning. That's amazing. Note that we also have a walkthrough webinar coming up on the 21st. Hopefully, I'll be feeling a lot better by then. And you can register to that to learn more about SocialBee individually, so that we can focus on things like this and work better. Now, once you have some content in, you can repurpose and reuse your content. So for instance, you can turn a blog post into multiple social media posts if you have a listicle, for instance, 10 reasons to feel better. And you can create a social media post around every one of those 10 reasons. You can also reformat content across your different platforms and turn it into maybe turn a tweet into a LinkedIn post. So there's a few options that you can do, and you can see some examples on screen here. Oh, there we go. Now we have rule number 1 was you gotta have fun. The rule number 1 was to plan before you create. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2, is to batch similar tasks together, and three, to repurpose and reuse your content. And now we have the anatomy of a post. I um, seem to have gone ahead a little bit on my own presentation. So you can see all the different elements that an Instagram post has versus a Pinterest post has. So this is what you need to be mindful of whenever you're creating your content. Now, if you are ready to speed up your content creation with AI, they can help you in basically any step of the way. But be mindful when I say they can help you, not do the work for you. That is very important. And I am adamant that you use this as a tool, not a replacement for your own knowledge. So, what can you do with AI? I'm pretty sure everyone knows by now, but you can brainstorm ideas, you can generate social posts, script your videos, rewrite existing content. Everything can be done by using the AI tools right about now. So, super helpful to have. And the moral of the story is to spend the least amount of time possible on creating your content so that you can have more time to focus on your other aspects of the business. Um, Best way to create thumbnails on Pinterest. Canva. There's a trick in Canva. I'm not sure if I have enough time to do it now, but if I don't, I'll create a Loom recording and I'll include it in the follow-up email so that you have it. Canva can allow you to batch create covers. So if you have something like quotes or you know exactly what text you want to say and what image you want to put on those, you can batch create them in Canva and then import them into Social Bee using the batch importing option. So there's tools for everything, really. Yeah. So let's sip some more water just to make sure. There we go. So now that we have that, let's move on and talk a little more in detail about each of these and how you can do it. You'll have some prompt examples here to generate topic ideas. In this particular one, we're working on LinkedIn. So you can see the result on the right side and the prompt on the left side. Feel free to take a screenshot of everything. You'll also have it available in the after email. Then you're going to be able to generate entire social media posts. And here are some examples of prompts that you can work with to achieve that. So it's important to have quite a bit of detail in your prompt to make sure that it generates a good post. And you should be able to do all of this within Social Bee with the AI assistant inside the post editor. So it's super easy for you to get things off the ground and then just dabble here and there on them to make them truly your own. If you want to rewrite or improve existing content, you can create three new and different variations of a specific post or create variations of a blog post and do all sorts of things to make sure that you repurpose it without feeling like it's an exact replica of each other. You can also write scripts for your videos because video right now is blowing things out of proportion for anything else. So you definitely need to have video implemented in your strategy, and this is a good way to do that. It's not the only way, but it is a good way, and you can try it and let me know if you like it. Now, the most important thing about AI is that you need to yeah, whenever I see emoticons in the content, it screams that that it is AI generated. That is true. Emoji are one of the biggest giveaways of AI content, also overuse of generic phrases, repetitive structures of the sentence, lack of any emotional nuance, personal stories, things like that. So you have quite a few indicators to work with. And within Social Bee, you actually have a toggle when it comes to creating content to choose whether you want to include emoji or leave them out. So if you want to leave them out completely, there's a toggle for that. So once you identify the things that make it AI generated, how do you make it sound more human? Well, you can add your personal stories and anecdotes. You can vary the sentence length so that it doesn't seem so repetitive and so monotone, because real speech, as you can see, is not that. Or you can infuse humor, cultural references, anything that is relevant to your particular audience in order to make sure that you achieve your goals. So we've reached the second practical exercise in this challenge, and this one is to use one of the prompts in the slides that I've provided. Again, you can do this after the challenge and basically come up with 5 content ideas focused around one of your content themes. So that's what you want to do. What I'd say is maybe today start focusing on the content pillars, and tomorrow you can actually start working on the actual content so that you let that information sink in and mature. We're down to the last important feature of the strategy, and that is to look at analytics and engaging with your audience in order to grow. So we're going to talk about what analytics matter, what why you should reply to messages quicker, why you should watch mentions and comments, why you should do all sorts of tactics that will help you generate more engagement. So we're going to talk about all of that. But first, let me answer a question. Should you be checking your analytics? And as a matter of fact, let me know in the chat, how often do you check your analytics? I'm very curious to know. Every day. Wow, that is a lot. I'm curious if anyone else has any. Once a week, every 2 months, every week, once a week, 5 years later. Okay, so it's time to start. If you want to make informed decisions, which I'm assuming that you will, if you want to explain the use of time and material resources, if you have management for employees, if you want to track your progress towards the goals that you've set in the beginning, then you definitely should check your analytics. Now, how often? It's usually a case of case to face, case to case thing, but I wouldn't recommend doing this more than once every week, as you won't be able to see nuances in your content. So, what types of metrics do you want to measure in your analytics? Well, I've gathered them into 5 categories. And these are actually follower growth, where you have growth rate, audience size, awareness metrics that has impressions or reach or views, referral traffic and website visits on the platforms where that's allowed, engagement metrics where you have likes, comments, saves, shares, reposts, retweets, however you want to call everything in there. And the final one is the brand health metrics, where you track audience sentiment, where you track mentions of your brand and make sure that everything is on a positive note. So we're going to talk about these in a little bit more detail so that you can see them. And on the right side here, you have some examples from Social Bee. so that you can see them exactly how you would in Social Bee. So for follower growth and audience size, you can look at the number of followers you have, the overall page growth, even the number of unfollowers that you have to tell a complete story about your channel's health. Needless to say, even if you're not tracking the growth as an objective, you definitely need to track these metrics. They will give you the most complete info on your content. So, um, let's say you have a stagnant or declining follower growth, right? You can opt for a new strategy in that case and see what's not working and change it up. If you're seeing positive growth, on the other hand, you'll be able to just analyze what worked in that time frame and do more of that. So it's super healthy to have. And once again, the metrics that you want to follow are follower growth, which measures the new followers that you've gained in a specific time frame. The growth rate, which is a percentage of how quickly your audience is growing, and your audience size, which is keeping track of all the followers that you have and whether it's on an upward or downward trajectory. So you have all of that very much visible. Next up, we have social media engagement, and these metrics are going to be shares and retweets, comments, mentions, watch times, clicks, likes. Nowadays, we also have reposts, stitches, duets. There's a lot, and they are very much platform specific. So this goes back to the anatomy of a post and how you can track the right metrics for that profile. Once you have all this, you're going to look at your engagement rate. This is a very important one as it measures the sum of all of your interactions divided by the number of your followers or reach, depending on the platform. And then it's multiplied by 100% to give you a percentage. As a rule of thumb, if you have low engagement, you need a new strategy, and that strategy should contain tactics to increase engagement. If you have great engagement, keep on doing what you're doing, it's rocking. So that's all about engagement for now. We're then going to look at awareness metrics, and this measures your brand awareness. It shows you how many people see your brand, how many are aware of your social media. Can you share the formula again? It's the total sum of interactions divided by your total number. Oh, it's not here. By the total number of followers or reach, depending on the platform, and then multiplied by 100. But you'll have the information in the follow-up email, so you don't have to worry about it. Okay, so back to awareness metrics. I was saying that you should observe these in relation to other metrics that you have to identify patterns, and that's why looking at this daily will not help, because with daily tracking, you will not be able to see those patterns as you will not have that broad perspective that is needed. So keep that in mind. Maybe use once a week or once a month for reference. And then for your main metrics or the main goals, you should have them quarterly and revise them quarterly and see how they work for you. So what do we have under this category? What are we going to look at? We're going to look at impressions. We're going to look at how many times a post has been displayed on a specific device. This can be, one post can have multiple impressions from the same user. And then we have the reach, which is the unique number of devices or users that have seen your post. So in other words, You can look at how many individuals saw your content with your reach and how many times your content has been seen with your impressions. Um, for video content, obviously impressions are going to be views. And as a matter of fact, I think Instagram is unifying those metrics. So you will have views for impressions in Instagram if you don't already. I've seen both options available. And basically, if you look at these, they will not paint the full picture when you're looking at them individually. But if you're looking at them in context, looking at maybe having high reach and low impressions, so there's a lot of people seeing your content, but there's no or less people rewatching your content, this can indicate a scenario that means your content is reaching a broad audience, which is great, but the users are not engaging with it. So you need to work on engagement metrics and get a little bit better at that. On the other hand, if you have high reach and high impressions, this means you have both broad reach and great engagement, and you should keep doing what you're doing. And at the other end of the spectrum, you have low reach with low impressions. In this case, you want to focus first on growing your reach, not your impressions, so that new people can see your content. This is especially seen when your content is seen by followers and not so many non-followers. So that's a metric that you can look at, especially on Instagram. Then, once you have that, you can act accordingly, right? So you'll be able to do all of that. What else can you do? Everything else that's on the screen here. So observing the metrics in relation to other data, like the goals that you have, because a lot of reach is not relevant enough if your goal is to grow in followers, because the people are not following you. They're just seeing your content. You can identify patterns, and you can do that very easily with Socially. You can evaluate the impact of your hashtags, although nowadays not so much, especially on Instagram, but TikTok, X, LinkedIn, they still got them. They still use them, so use them if you have them. So which one is better, higher engagement or higher reach? That's a good question, but it depends on your objective. If your objective is to get in front of new people, higher reach is perfect. If your objective is to get more engagement, you can look at your engagement rate. And if it's low, people see your content, but they don't really care. So you got to work on the engagement, the call to actions a little bit. So hope that answers the question. If we're talking Pinterest, you can look at social media referral traffic and see where your audience is landing on your website from, especially for Pinterest or LinkedIn, Facebook, platforms that allow link sharing. And you can use UTM parameters with these in order to make sure that you have all the details needed. You can either create your UTMs, which stand for Universal Tracking Metrics, by the way. You can create them with Google, with tools outside of Social Bee, but you also have this in your category settings so that you can create it directly in your Social Bee account and you don't have to worry about anything in particular. Once you have those UTM parameters in place, you're going to look at Google Analytics for traffic from your social media and see how you're doing in that direction. Finally, we have brand health metrics. This is going to tell you a complete story about your audience's channel. About your audience and channel health. So first of all, it will tell you audience sentiment, where you can learn how people feel about your brand, if they are positive about it, if they're using social media to complain about you, if you are not replying to those mentions that are negative, that is a bad sign. So the second thing the brand mentions is to track conversations about your business, but not only track them, but also reply to them as nicely as possible to turn the sentiment around and solve that issue. And again, this is a reminder that each platform has, oh, sorry, platform specific analytics. So you'll be able to look at things differently on YouTube and TikTok than you would on LinkedIn, for instance. Now, going back to the question Audrey added in the chat about which one is better, higher engagement or higher reach. I think this answers your question. More reach gets you more engagement. So basically, engagement is fuel to get more reach. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. The more you engage with your audience, basically, that's what I'm trying to say, is the more you engage with your audience, the better your content becomes because they will start interacting back with you. So you can look for high and positive engagement, which is actually a very good signal that your profiles are healthy. So you want to do that. Let's use this Zoom's features here. I don't think it works. Of course, it doesn't work when I want to use it. Oh, there we go. Awesome. Cool. So how can you increase engagement? Well, there's a few things that you can do. First and foremost, the most important one, and I cannot get tired of saying this to anyone I speak with, and that is to actually um, respond to comments and messages as soon as possible. Would you excuse me for a second? I forgot to plug in my computer due to my head cold. So I'm gonna plug it in real quick. I'll turn my camera off so you don't see me mumble and fumble around. And I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so we're back. Laptop is safe. As I was saying, you need to respond to your comments as quickly as possible because quick responses signal your audience that their comments and messages are being seen, acknowledged, and taken seriously. You will also see that it helps with building a connection and therefore a community with your brand. And finally, it also helps addressing any problems before they escalate or something like that. So yeah, we have responding to comments and messages as soon as possible on the first spot. Then we have other ways of generating engagement, and that is to use tactics like contests, giveaways, polls, question sessions on stories and in your feed, so that you can actually interact with your audience and prompt them to interact back with you. Now, for this third practical exercise, you will use a resource that will be in the email, in the follow-up email. It's basically a sheet of paper that will help you audit your social media and see how you're doing in terms of brand awareness and in terms of metrics and everything so that you know exactly where you're standing because the first step of a good strategy is to start by looking at what works and what doesn't work right now. Andrea, if you have this, you can add it in the chat. If not, no worries. We will send it in the follow-up email as well. Okay, so we are almost done. Just a small reminder, social social media is social, and you should look for anti-burnout, like I am, checklists so that you don't overcommit, so that you don't burn out and end up in a situation like I am right now. So answer the three questions that are um, on the slide, and you'll know where you're at and how consistent you can be and what your pace is for moving forward with the social media strategy. So that concludes the theory part um, of our session. This was supposed to be 2 hours long, but because we're not doing the exercises, it is a little bit shorter. And thank you for being patient with me while I mumble and fumble through it. We're gonna go through the questions next. I see some in the chat as well as in the Q&A box. Please, starting this moment, add them into the Q&A box because that is the first place that I will look. And if you stayed with us until the end, and you want to start with Social Bee because you've opened a trial account yet and you've started working with it and you like it, there's a little gift that we want to bring. And that is a 20% discount for 3 months on the monthly plans using the code that you see on screen, um, or 24 total percent discount on yearly plans using the code again that you see on the yearly option. And if you haven't started a trial yet, you can start one with the link here. So app.socialbee.com/sign up. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and um, go through the comments. I will leave the discount on screen while I reply to any type of questions that we have so that you have the answers. I see one in the chat and I will reply to that one just because it is pertaining to the code. If you signed up within the last 7 days, you can email me and I'll apply the code on your behalf. It is not usually applied retroactively, but I feel like you've been super patient with me today, and I want to give back to you for hanging in there with me as I shiver my way through the webinar and through everything that I have. You can email me at anka@socialbee.com and you'll see it on screen here, or hello@socialbee.com. You'll be able to reach me anywhere and I'll be able to apply the discount on your behalf. Again, if you purchased within the last 7 days, that is the deal. Now, let's see some questions. Can Social Bee help grow followers on social media? Social Bee doesn't have tools that will help you grow directly, so it will not allow you to do follows and things like that. But you do have, and actually, I'm gonna show you. I think that's easier. Let's see if I can show you on the right workspace. I'll switch it to Social Bee. By the way, if you're an agency and you're not yet familiar with Social Bee, you can separate your different brands projects into workspaces and allow access to those workspaces that you only want to. So in terms of engagement, you'll have the Engage dashboard. And in here, you can monitor and reply to comments, mentions, and DMs. And this will save you a lot of time because it will help you do it all in one place and you don't have to hop from platform to platform. Social Bee can also notify you when a new comment gets added, and then you can go in, click on the comment, and reply to it directly from Social Bee. So it's super easy to work with, and it will help you stay on top of those comments, which again is my first rule. I'll switch back to the code so that you see that visible. You mentioned that if you have low engagement, you need a new strategy. And with that, you need to use new tactics. What might those be? I'm hoping I replied to that with the slide that you see here. So replying to your comments quicker, messages, and running giveaways, running polls, doing collaborations, asking questions for your audience, open-ended, of course, or even questions just as simple as drop a like, drop a thumbs up in the chat, just the way I did when I told you to X if you don't follow, if you don't use social B, or hands up if you do, and it worked. So basically, you can use things like that in your tactics, but use them carefully. You don't want to seem spammy. How do I get a viral product? For example, pancakes. Virality, in my in my opinion, virality is a little bit overrated. You want to aim for consistency more than virality. But if you do want to get viral, look at the posts that are making it viral, hop on trends very early on, and only use trends that work in favor of your brand. So if you're an NGO working with disabled people, definitely don't make fun of disabled people. That's very important. Work with trends that are appropriate for your industry and for what you do and what problem you solve. So, for instance, if I were to jump on trends with social bee, um, let me think of a trend right now. I haven't been on TikTok in 2 days, so I'm not really sure. But yeah, okay. So the biggest trend of the summer. Now it's gone, but when it first popped up, nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday. If you're watching TikTok, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you were able to jump on that trend early on, using these viral trends guarantees a little bit more exposure if done correctly. So I think that's a tactic that you can try. Pumpkinhead challenge, yeah. um, you can also do a reinterpretation of that. If you're a Friends fan, Thanksgiving is around the corner. You might want to work with the turkey head Monica had in the Friends episode. So that's also a good take for it. Okay, next question. For posting frequency, what about our user-generated content where we are tagged in collaborations where we are tagged as well? Um, what about seasonal businesses? Well, obviously you need to take advantage of that season and amplify your posting a little more during the season and cool down um, in off season. So, for instance, if you have a costume shop for Halloween, now you should be posting daily and even multiple times a day. You should be posting costume ideas, DIYs, um, results that people have done using your costumes in the past, things like that, so that you have um, also proof of concept, kind of. I can't find a better word for it, but I hope it makes sense. And in um, after Halloween, you can ride the wave for November, maybe, and just do follow-ups on, hey, this was awesome. This is what you guys did, and focus more on the user-generated content from this year and what we enjoyed about it and what could have been done better, things like that. And then when Christmas comes around, you're gonna stop with that type of content and you're gonna post less. So if you were posting daily, now you're gonna switch to maybe 2 to 3 posts every week. It's gonna give you a chance to rejuvenate, and you can use seasonal content for Christmas, for Easter, for whatever, to still poke fun at your specific industry. I hope that makes sense, and I hope I used the right example for you. Question. I saw in your slides that you advocate for 1 or 2 daily posts in Meta and LinkedIn. personally, I find this as the main reason for my potential followers to unfollow. Aren't those way too many? And that's where the audience audit comes into play because these are general best practices and they might not work for everyone. So you need to look at your particular audience's behavior. You're going to name your audience. So for instance, I'm going to say, I am targeting Mary. Mary is a marketing girly. She is overwhelmed with the amount of posts that she needs to do for her clients. She cannot manage them effectively in Google Sheets and Meta. And even though she's just posting to Facebook and Instagram, she needs a better solution. And so that solution could be Social Bee because Social Bee can help her organize her content, schedule her content in advance, batch her content, reuse content so that she's not as overwhelmed. So look at your audience. And just to give you a better example, leave Mary alone. If you're gonna do, uh, if your target audience is, let's say you are coaching CEOs, they're going to be more present on LinkedIn and they're going to be more present during office hours, right? So your content should be posted on around that time and around the frequency that they need because they might be very busy and not hop on LinkedIn every day. So one post every day on LinkedIn might be too much for you. But if you are online shopping store for makeup and you are catering to new parents who maybe want to feel fresh again and they want to bring a little more of their old life back, you are going to target them wherever they are, which is probably going to be Instagram because today's new parents are typically on the younger side. So they're going to be 20s, 20 somethings, 30 somethings. So you're going to look at Gen Z for the most part and a little bit of millennials. So they spend their time on Instagram, which is important. And also, when they spend their time on Instagram, they consume Instagram in batches because the baby's sleeping. They have a little bit of time while they're breastfeeding the baby and they're in the chair and cannot move. So they're going to scroll Instagram at 2 a.m. in the morning and you're going to be there because you know your audience. Does that make sense? So it is audience relevant. You are going to need to look at your specific audience's behavior. And as a matter of fact, you can do that in Social Bee in the Analytics tab. You'll have the following metrics. I'm looking at Instagram specifically over the last 3 months. At the bottom of the page analytics tab, you'll have the online followers activity. So when your followers are actually online, the more intense the yellow, the more people are going to be online at that time. So that's one way to know your audience. Then you're going to go into post analytics, which is giving you more average insights into how your content is performing. And in this case, you're going to look at the average posts per day, reach per post, best type of content. You're also going to look at the evolution of your content. For instance, I was on holiday in August and you can see that I didn't post anything. So consistency, not so much. And then, more importantly for your audience and to get to know your audience are these metrics per category and per post type, which is going to give you the best time according to when your audience interacts with that specific content. So you're going to look at engaging content, at promotional content, and educational content and schedule it accordingly. And then finally, you have my favorite tab, which is going to show you how your content gets distributed to your audience. So you'll see here the bigger bubble is when your content is getting distributed, and this is color coded per category. And then you can look at when you're scheduling that category and figure out if it overlaps or if you need to change things in your schedule. So, yeah. With the spread with the spreadsheet, if you have multiple businesses, would you keep one sheet or have multiple? Also, do you have resources on managing multiple businesses? I think if you are Managing multiple businesses, I would keep them separate. I would not use the same spreadsheet, so maybe duplicate it multiple times for each business. Um, and as for resources, in Social Bee, you can organize the businesses in workspaces so that you have a cleaner slate and you don't get overwhelmed when it comes to creating content. So you're going to focus on your own content because that's important too. And we all know as marketers, the last content that we're going to do is ours. So yeah, you can focus on one business at a time within Social Bee. What is the limitation in AI usage on your subscriptions? Right now, um, there's very little limitation in the sense that you'll have the social media copilot, which can generate your content pillars, schedule content ideas to give you a head start, and then you can work with them from there. This is usable once per workspace, and then if you want to use it again for a different business, you can clear the inputs and start fresh. And then in the post editor, you'll have your AI assistant here, which can generate captions, images, and customize your existing captions for each of your selected profiles. If you're generating captions, you have a cap at 2,000 words per post, and you can choose, I believe, up to 15 options here. By default, you'll get 3, and usually that's more than enough. But you can change this higher or lower if you don't need as many. Oh, and by the way, in here you can also ideate by shuffling and favorite your prompts, which is what I do. If you've ever been in one of my demos, I'm a big foodie and I like to have my breakfast recipe showcased every single time. So I'm just gonna use something like this. And this is the toggle for the emoji that I mentioned that I can turn on or off. And it can just work with it like that, or I can add more context to it, which is what I would recommend doing. So avocado toast. If I select this and then I use the AI image generation, it will give me a limit of 4 images per generation. So if I want, I'll just use one of these and generate content and sip some water while it works. Hopefully this answers your questions. Okay, so I'll close this question and we'll get back to it once it pops up with the images. Should I? Oh, there we go. Should I go on or shouldn't I go on? You can see the avocado toast options, and I think this one's the more realistic, so I can just use it in my content like that. And now you'll be able to see a preview of the selected profiles and see what it looks like on all of them. So that answers this question. Let's go back to the other one. Should I choose to use videos over photos for posts? Also, is there a way to add a second user to my Social Bee personal account? Yes and yes. Video is king, so you should definitely have video in your strategy. If you're not comfortable with being on camera, you can use faceless videos. They tend to really work in today's scene. But if you're comfortable with being on camera, it's even better. And yes, you can add an extra user. If you are on a pro plan, you'll have extra users included. And if you are not on a pro plan, you have the options to add-ons, which can help you add extra users, extra workspaces or profiles, and make your plans a little more flexible so that you don't have to upgrade to the next tier if all you need is one extra workspace. So yeah, that is what you can do. And by the way, the main plans already have a 16% discount that's visible here. So your 24% discount for the yearly option is deducted from the full price. So it includes the 16% here. So you're better getting a better deal, basically. Okay, cool. Three more questions. If you have any other questions, now's your time to add them. Does Social Bee connect with HubSpot or other CRMs? Not at the moment. You might be able to use Zapier, Make, or Pabbly to create a connection, but only for a few activities. So no, at the moment we don't have direct integrations with this. Does it impact the content if the post says posted by Social Bee on the post? I know exactly what you mean with that, and I'm going to showcase it. And that is specifically shown on Facebook. I'm going to go to the post history and pick one post to open it in Facebook. Hopefully I don't have any messages that will pop up. Don't look. Okay, so you'll see this. If you are switched to the page, you'll see here posted via Social Bee. If you are just a follower of the page, you'll see it as I am seeing it, just the date of the post. So that posted from Social Bee is just an identifier for you as an admin to know where that post came from and is not shown to your audience. I hope that makes sense. Cool. So last question, and then I'll promise to go rest up, but I'm already feeling better. You guys distracted me from the cold that's coming, so thank you so very much. Anyway, so we are just starting with this for nonprofit for kids with disabilities. We have no ideas how to do it. What would be your advice for us? Um, First of all, you can book a call with our team. They are able to get more insights into what your needs are and then give you more specific advice. Because right now it's pretty general and I don't really know exactly what advice to give you. But you can book a call with our team. Andrea already added it in the chat. And if you're in Europe, it's probably going to be with me. So one of us, either way, will answer your questions. And then in terms of managing things better, by the way, Social Bee has a permanent 50% NGO discount. So if you can provide proof of NGO status that's legal, that's legally binding, you can take advantage of that offer. So you can just send that over to success@socialbee.com and they'll give you the discount code so that you can use it at a lower price for working within your budget limitations. Okay, two more questions popped up. What are categories in Social Bee? You'll see them under the content menu. Categories are your content pillars. Categories can be your topics. Categories can be any campaigns that you're doing. Categories can be literally anything and any way you want to organize your content within Social Bee. But my personal opinion is that they work best as content pillars. So my advice would be to use them as that. And as a matter of fact, that's how I use them. So you'll see the ones that I currently use are the ones with the B on top to flag to me that these are the ones that I'm using. So I have blog posts, which is educational content. And then I have specific educational posts, which further educate my audience on social media related things. Then we have engaging posts. These are relatable memes, trends, funny stuff that will be relatable to anyone who's in my target audience, including you. Like, let's see what's in here. The hardest part of social media isn't learning the tools, but balancing everything else. Creativity, consistency, algorithms. Share your struggle. And you already kind of relate to this, and you're going to tell me what you're struggling with, even in more detail based on this. Uh, yeah. Okay. And final question, if possible, could you demonstrate how to import from Canva? Yeah. So when you're creating a post, you'll have the Canva button here and you can click on it. It opens up your Canva account if you're logged in. If not, it will ask you to log in. And then you have your templates, you have your projects, you have access to everything that you would normally in your Canva account, whether it's a free one or a pro one. And then you can go in and build it and add it to Social Bee. Just like that. It's super simple. There we go. Awesome. So that concludes our Q&A. That concludes our session. Thank you all for joining in and for being patient with me. As I said, if you want to take advantage of the deal that we offered, you can save the code. It's also going to be in the email. And if you stuck with me, painfully so, through the entire webinar, you are now automatically rolled in to win one of the two 1-year licenses for Social Bee and one lifetime license on ACE. So we'll be picking that these winners later, and I will personally email every one of you that wins, so the 3 people that will win, and let you know what prize you won and what steps you need to take. So thanks again all for joining. If you have any other questions, you can always reach out. Anka@socialbee.com, hello@socialbee.com, and you're always welcome to ask questions and book a call with us if needed. So again, thank you all for joining. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time.